When Harold and Margaret Collins woke each morning in their small Virginia home, the day began the same way it had for years, with routine, respect, and a love shaped by discipline and time. Harold was 72, his back a little stooped now, his once commanding voice softened by age. Margaret, 70, still carried herself with the calm strength of a woman who had stood steady through deployments, relocations, and long months of waiting. They were both retired U.S. Army. Harold, a former infantry officer, Margaret, a logistics specialist who kept entire units moving with quiet efficiency. Their love had never been loud. They met overseas in the late 1970s, two young soldiers far from home. Romance came slowly, built between duty rosters, shared coffee at dawn, and letters written when words spoken were too risky. They married during a short leave. No grand ceremony, just uniforms, vows, and a promise to return safely. Life marched forward like a long campaign. Children came and grew. Bases changed. Seasons passed. Harold led troops. Margaret held families together back home. When Harold was deployed, Margaret folded his shirts just the way he liked and slept on his side of the bed sometimes, as if that might shorten the distance. Now, decades later, their battles were different. Harold's hands trembled when he buttoned his shirt, so Margaret helped him without a word. Margaret's knees ached on cold mornings, and Harold always made sure her tea was ready before she rose. They spoke less than they once did, but silence no longer meant distance. It meant understanding. Every evening, just before sunset, they walked to the small porch facing west. Harold leaned on his cane. Margaret held his arm. Together, they watched the flag in their yard flutter gently in the fading light. "Still beautiful," Harold said one evening, nodding toward the sky. Margaret smiled. "So are you," she replied, as she always did. On their 50th anniversary, there were no parties or speeches. Instead, Harold presented Margaret with a small wooden box. Inside was a folded, worn letter, the very first one he had written to her from overseas. "I never stopped writing to you," he said softly, "even when I didn't have the words." Margaret's eyes filled with tears, not of sadness, but of gratitude, for a love that had survived distance, danger, and time itself. That night, as they lay side by side, Harold reached for Margaret's hand. Their fingers intertwined, slow, careful, familiar. They had served their country with honor, and they had loved each other with the same quiet devotion until time itself stood at ease.